All right, all right. Welcome, welcome, welcome once again. Black men declare. Good morning, brothers. Good morning to our brothers and our sisters. J. Rogers here, Mike Side. We are Black Men Declare. We want to make sure our narrative is heard by all the people. We welcome our brothers this morning. William Tell and Denmark VC, Dr. Du Bois. I know Dr. Ben won't be with us today. We just thank God for having an opportunity to come together. Well, brothers, I'm going to be honest. I see more turmoil, yet more opportunity than I've ever seen in my time on this planet. So much confusion, yet at the same time, so much opportunity. And I think, feel, and believe that's how we have to look at it, is that there's significant opportunity right now. And this is what we must be sharing with our young people. Can't get into a pity party, can't get into woe is me. We got to be thinking in terms of what can we do to leverage and take advantage of what's going on here, not only in America, but around the world. So I'd like to hear some opening statements from our brothers today, just short opening statements, is that as you look around the world right now, not only here in America, but all over the globe, I mean, is there any particular thing that has caught your attention, in America or any place around the world during the course of this last week? Just open it up for just an open brainstorm.
Well, greetings, Dr. Rogers, to you, and greetings to our sisters and brothers of Black Men Declare. I would say for me, what has recently captured, and we somewhat spoke about it not too long ago, is the fact that 47 continues to write these executive orders. And until people realize that these executive orders are nothing more than just the wishes of the president and they're not actual laws, we're going to continue to allow this bully to bully not just American people, but now he's trying to extend his tentacles all around the world with these different tariffs. And we know that tariffs can be good, but the way that he is trying to enforce them, that's to bring disruption. So I see these executive orders just flying out and hurting people.
Sorry, brother. I just noticed I wasn't on mute. Sorry about that. But I think my thoughts are all in Africa right now, to be truthful. Everything that's happening in Africa and around Africa, you have South African whites complaining to President Trump, and of course we know Elon is a South African, complaining that they're being unfairly targeted by the administration, taking back land and everything that was stolen during the apartheid during the apartheid regime. Then you have presidents like Ibrahim and Burkina Faso that's stepping up and making major changes in the area. You have the billionaire that's in, I believe it's Nigeria, that's talking about opening the AI factory. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's in Nigeria, but he's talking about opening one of the largest AI manufacturing and AI compounds in the world. So there's a lot of moving parts on the continent, man. And I'm just looking for ways that, because they're inviting us, how can Black Americans take part in that growth and help out the continent? So that's where my mind has been for quite some time.
Good morning, my brothers, Dr. W.B. Du Bois. What's worrisome to me is a functioning government where You have the three branches of government where the executive is trying to overrule all the other branches of government, and it just shows that it's not functioning the way that it was set up to be. And this is showing to me to be a weakness because no one is checking on this 47. And this is also reflected over the world where they're showing that America is showing it's incompetent. When you have the Secretary of Defense and all of the national security advisors doing this, they call this signal chat. It's showing the inexperience, the dangerous thing that Trump it start from the top, disregard of intelligence, security, and so that this is showing the world that the United States is not a functioning government as of now. Where Namibia, the country of Namibia, is saying, "Hey, America is taking us for granted, so we go put in a visa. They just can't come over here and do what they want to do." Talking about Americans, so they're showing over the world now is spreading the weakness of America.
Wow, powerful subject matters, brothers. And I was been thinking myself on a global reality, the NATO versus the BRICS, and how the US of A can kilter that particular group one way or the other, and whether or not this really is the Trump card that 47 is playing. Is that, hey, like saying, I'm going to go out on this broken limb. And at the end of the day, NATO, you haven't been putting nothing in the kitty. You haven't put your share in. And so I'm going to take my ball and go home. And at the other side of the table is, hey, BRICS, if you could let me into your party, look how much power we would have. We could truly then dominate the world. And remember, when you look at the BRICS group, they don't necessarily have the same kind of perspective at government and the governance of the people. So a lot of things going on, brothers, locally and also on a global basis. So let's get started, Dr. Till, and think about these executive orders that you mentioned. The thing that comes to mind for me is like what they say, like the tail the tail wagging the dog and the dog whatever it is. Why is it that people have responded affirmatively to these orders when these orders really don't have the power that they have been given? Why is it that people just from the jump and said, no, I'm not agreeing with that? What's your thoughts? Why are we seeing more resistance to these orders?
Well, when you look at the history, there have been more executive orders signed in the last maybe 4 administrations than in total. We understand that this is something that started off in the 70s, and over years, the American people have been groomed to kind of accept these as law. If we go back to our civics class and training, we would understand that. And a lot of people have not been taught that. And then with the attitude that 47 has had, he has surrounded himself with people who enforce now these executive orders, who will now say, yeah, this is the way it ought to be. And it's almost like a brainwashing or a great convincing that these are laws, that these are the way that it ought to be. And until there will be groups, because I don't think it's just the Democrats, but I think there has to be multiplicity in group efforts to push back and say, hey, this is an executive order. you know it's really no powerful than the paper that it's written on. And until groups of people come and stand up to him, that's it's gonna always be. And then my future prediction is that he is going to try to persuade even more people to say, hey, why do we need to have Congress to make laws when I'm the one that's in charge and I'm writing these executive orders? So my word should be the superior word. And the last time I seen that happen is when people had a king. And when the
Okay.
king decreed, that was even the king could not go against his own decree. He would have to have another decree to go against it. So I think that's his mindset and ultimate goal.
Well, you said something there that I like for Denmark to deal with. Denmark, how much of this executive order thing that you think really is more along the lines of predictive programming to see, okay, I'll get my toe wet. Let me see if I can get my whole foot in there, like you were indicating, Dr. Taylor. But Denmark, what's your thoughts on how much is predictive programming involved in this process of executive orders?
Well, let me first say peace to my brothers and my colleagues in this fight for truth, freedom, justice, and equality. I think that's exactly what it is. It's a measuring. It's almost like putting a frog on the stove, and you turn it up to one. You turn it up to two. Frog doesn't move, but by the time the frog notices that it's on five, it's too late. He's already boiling, and I think that's where we at in America. Is that this regime, I'm not going to even call them a government, this regime with Trump and his cronies are trying to see how far they can push the dial, how far they can turn it up. And we all know it's normally the 180-day window that they have to execute these things before people really start understanding what's going on. So, and then I just read that Elon has 130 days himself, being a special party to the government, or a special worker, or whatever term they use. He only has 130 days to do what he's going to do before that job is terminated. So they're trying to see what they can do, and what they're trying to do. They want to ruffle the feathers on the Democratic side a lot, but they trying to see how far they can go without some Republicans turning on them. And I read this morning that there's this one senator, I want to say he's from Tennessee, maybe, or Kentucky, one of those states that I didn't expect. This Republican congressman or senator, he's already, going in on his own party about what's happening. He's saying that when they start messing with money or benefits for the poor, he has a problem. So this is that fine line that Trump and this regime is trying to do, like ruffle the Democrats. They don't care. They don't care about how far they go with the Democrats. But I can't have a major faction in the Republican Party turn against me just yet. So your question is dead on. They want to turn that temperature up, and before you know it, they want you to be balling.
Wow, Dr. Du Bois, one of the things that, based on what Denmark is saying, that with that predictive people and seeing how high that heat can be turned up, how do you see this playing out in this right now imbalance in the three pillars of government? I mean, if the last pillar, theoretically, the judicial branch, just this past week, basically this regime refused to follow their orders. And I don't remember hearing of anyone being found in contempt of court or anything like that. But if, in fact, is this another example, even yet so, of the predictive programming and the challenge to show that, hey, in reality, the Congress nor the legislative nor the judicial branch of government has any power over the president. That he just has immunity in all situations. How is this going to get resolved? You got any thoughts on that, Dr. Du Bois?
Well, last year the Supreme Court empowered this president with immune from certain prosecution from immunity. Now he's testing the waters to show the other branches that the executive has power. For example, look at like you say, some of the executive orders. Even today, as we speak, the Supreme Court going to make a decision on this Alien Act, where he's deporting these aliens. It could be within the next minute, the next hour or so. So he's testing the waters to see how far he can go, and based on his mindset is that Supreme Court gave me this power, and I'm using every power that I have, and it's basically come down to I'm the king, I'm the king. The executive branch can do what it wants to do without any checks and balances, and he already had a plan where when to get it up to the Supreme Court. These district judges, federal judges, yes, but his idea is to keep on, rebuking what the federal judges says, and to get it up to the Supreme Court. That's his pet peeve, what he wants to do, and we're going to see what the Supreme Court going to do today on this the Alien Act. Say that in love.
Yeah, you got to go a long way to come up with an Alien Act or something like that probably has no precedent whatsoever, especially when there is no form of jurisprudence applied to the situation. Makes no sense. But Denmark, quick question. When we think about, what's going on over in Africa, and especially when you look at 47 trying to come out and say that the South Africans, whites were being treated unfairly. How do you reconcile a mindset of that, like that? Well, right here in America, we got all kind of issues of housing discrimination, even in 2025. We got all kinds of situations where the poor have to go and lay on the streets and so on and so forth. But what are you liking? Because I'm beginning to like what I'm seeing and hearing that's coming out of the African leaders. What do you think is a key indicator for us in America to know that the timing is right now, that our brothers and sisters in Africa is saying, okay, why don't you bring some of those talents here and let's see if we can make something happen exciting.
Oh man, that's a great and powerful question, because I, like you, are watching and trying to see that timing for myself, timing for the nations in Africa, just to measure, are they really ready for what's ahead? And we got to be straight up. It's not going to be easy, because white supremacy would not die. They're not going to die just because Africa is rising. They're going to try everything to divide and conquer those nations. As they begin to rise, they're going to try coups, and they're going to try war. They're going to try a lot of things, but we cannot be afraid of that. And my measuring stick personally is, because I have so many people that I know that have made that journey that's been there for 3, 4, 7, 8, 10. There's one lady, and I haven't heard from her recently, but I know that she's been in and out of Ghana for over 20 years. And then there's a Muslim brother Minister Akbar, who's been in and out of Ghana for almost 40 years. That's in the Nation of Islam. But you know, so the timing it's a personal thing. Are you ready spiritually, financially, mentally? Are you ready to make that change? Can you handle not having some of the things that America used as trinkets and silver and gold pieces to dangle in front of you to keep you happy, to keep you satisfied? Because that's all, when you really sit back and reflect on your life, that's all that they have done. Dangle trinkets, silver, pieces of silver and gold in front of our face and say, hey, are you okay? You know, we want to make sure that our once slaves are still okay, because we don't want no uprising here, and we definitely don't want you to connect with any other person that's that's overseas. That's always been their strategy. So I think it's really at this point, because we see so many people in our nations rising. I think at this point it's just a matter of a personal choice.
Powerful. That is powerful. A personal choice. And you mentioned something that we may need to make a transition amongst us here in America. I was reading something yesterday. I want to read you this list of what they say, and then, Dr. Till, I'd like for you to address this. This is a list that said 10 worst assets that you could have, right? New cars, timeshares, designer clothes, lottery tickets, overpriced degrees, boats, expensive pets, whole life insurance, fancy gadgets, and expensive weddings. Now, Dr. Taylor, when you think about that, how does that hit you when someone comes to say, these are 10 things that Black folks need to consider giving up or rethinking? And one of them, the last one being that wedding, where they're saying that the average nice wedding is about $30,000, which could be probably used as a down payment for a home. How does that list hit you? I mean, would you agree, disagree?
I would totally agree with that list. As Brother Denmark was speaking, what came to my mind is the fact that we have been told we ought to accept and have this American dream, but it's always been a nightmare somewhat for a lot of us. When you think about that list, and you think about all those things are temporal. All those things will either get rust or they will get broke down. A prime example or a great analogy is, and I have to admit, I've been accused, and I've done it myself. On Christmas Day, you get that brand new toy. You break it out the wrapper. You open up the box. It's so good. It's so great. And it's all wonderful. And a week later, it's over in a corner collecting dust. When you think about that list, a lot of those things that's on that list are just like that gift, or just like that toy on Christmas Day. It's all great when it's shiny, but when you're talking about maintaining, when you're talking about taking care, when you're talking about overtime, when you're talking about the things that when it breaks down. I've never been married, but I know that the two times that I've been engaged, I've always said that I wasn't going to have a big wedding. What I've noticed how a lot of other people will do is, instead of having a great wedding, they will have a smaller wedding or gathering and then they will use, like you say, that 30 or 40,000 and put down on a house. Or they will not just take a weekend vacation, honeymoon, but they'll go away for 2 or 3 weeks. And I've met couples on trips, and you say, well, how long y'all been? We've been here 2 weeks and we got 1 more week. And I'm like, wow. They was like, yeah, that's the problem with you Americans. Y'all don't value your vacations. You are always work, 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 and you got to get away and enjoy life. And we just came as one, so we're gonna take these 3 weeks and enjoy each other. So that's what I'm striving to get to.
Okay. Well, we're gonna be checking that out to see if you're gonna have that big old wedding or you're gonna be just going down and making it legal. And we're praying that you're gonna go down and make it legal and not have to get invested in all of these assets that don't really create that much value per se. Think about a diamond for a moment. What utility is a diamond? We create the utility, we create the value. Now it can be a great glass cutter, but at the end of the day, in reality, I mean, it's a man-made creation, right? It's not something that how would you say has extreme value, other than your ego, a woman's ego. Because what you gonna do? You can't eat it. I mean, if you ingested it, my goodness, look at the value you've lost. Because, and that's another piece that's going back into our overall segment. We as people, the whole idea here is we got to get back to a prioritization. And that prioritization should be, where am I going to live? We should be thinking, I think, over the next 2 to 5 years, am I going to have researched an area, including Africa, where I might relocate or I might visit? I might spend half the year there and half the year. We're at a time where we got to come out of the comfort zones and begin to explore the beyond. And I had a conversation just the other day with one of my daughters, and I said, don't even think about capping yourself to America. I mean, you're young. I mean, consider the whole world, because you know you cannot get trapped into, well, this is it, because this may not indeed be it. And so that gives me, think about some of the people, and I'm gonna come back and ask you this one, Denmark, because I know you know some people in this particular.
Hey, did we lose Jay Rogers? William Tell, are you there? I can't.
Well, I believe that Dr. Rogers is having some connection problem. What I definitely would suggest is that we think about what we want to do. Think about those issues when we talk about pivoting. What are we going to do in the long run? How are we going to move? What's the priority? Is it instant gratification? Is it something that you will do just for now, or that's going to be pleasing just for the next month or two? Or is it something that you can invest in that will be a benefit to you in the long run. I know as a older man now, I wish I have gone or I would have visited some locations where I want to go now. But because of the activities that I've experienced, I am now about to embark on traveling to those different locations. But I definitely encourage, just as Dr. Roger has, encourage our young people to travel, to not just travel, but to go out and explore, to go out and venture. Don't get caught up in just what's in your city or what's in your region, but expand your mind, expand your territory, expand going out learning other cultures, but maintaining your culture and understanding how your culture can be a great benefit. So we definitely have to prioritize what's important to us and what's going to be beneficial for us and for the culture.
You know, Denmark, we talked about this before, but I think it's worth mentioning again because it could go into that connection, a precursor or a standalone. And that's the migration back south by black folks and whites, but led most of the time by black folks coming out of those urban areas because those manufacturing bases have been eliminated. And so as you look at this South, what's the blending and the mixing do you see or anticipate as this migration continues? I know you know some of us live in Georgia. We've seen it. We see the migration of people coming in. How do you think that's going to impact on the folks that's been here? They never left. Now, so some of the folks left, and now they may not be coming back in the same generation. They may be one or two generations later, but they're coming back to the South. I see it as a pretty positive, but I understand that there still is some friction just amongst us as people. What's your perspective on that?
I think for me, one of the first immediate steps is a greater number of people moving to the southern states where we already are, or southern cities where we already dominate and continue to put in place black cities and have our control. And we know that all politics is local in America, so if we can control that. And then have those leaders put pressure on those black leaders to make connections to Africa and to cities and states or cities and regions of Africa, and then you have a pipeline of exchange. And I know that the Republicans they got on the is it the mayor, the governor, the mayor of California? I think it was the mayor, the black woman. When the fire happened, she was in Africa. She was making connections. You know, for us, that's a positive thing. And we can't be afraid of what white media is saying when we see our leaders over there doing business and creating opportunities. You know, so I think one, again, moving back to the South is a great first step. But two, we have to have forerunners. And thankfully, I'm thankful. I have to say it. I'm thankful for the knowledge and wisdom I gained some 20 plus years ago, being in the groups that I am. Being in those groups has exposed my mind. I had no mind, much as I love Africa, much as I love black people, that never even was a consideration. But some 20 plus years ago, when I'm seeing people, I'm like, where's this brother? Where's that brother? Oh, they're over in Africa. They'll be back, you know, for a few months here, a few months there. You know, been going in and out of America for years. But most of us have no idea we've been stuck into this mindset of thinking America is the only business, the only thing that we've been brainwashed. A lot of us has been brainwashed that this is it. You know, we got you hear a lot of people say our ancestors died and fought for this land. Yeah, for 500 years. But if you were older than, if your ancestors was here long before 500 years, then they blood and sweat for other land too. So why not be fighting for that as well? Why not be trying to get a piece of that as well? Are you trying to limit yourself to 500 years? No, we can't do that as Black people. We have to see ourselves as a world, as a global person, as a global group. We've been thinking too small, that we are only this small group in America, but we are much bigger than that. If we see the connections that are actually being made, if we put ourselves outside of our comfort zone and getting going to these Black meetings, these Pan-African meetings and stuff that's happening, you will see that there's a bigger world out here for Black people. People are making connections. People are doing business together. They're trusting each other. Yeah, there may be some hiccups here and there, but people are doing business. And I have to give credit to those young brothers, again, from EYL. They went over. These brothers have only been doing this podcast for since 2020, when COVID hit. When COVID hit, they released their first broadcast. That's a little over 4 years. These brothers have already went to Ghana and purchased major land, and the land they have started building homes for Black Americans to move. You know, these young brothers. But if you and again, I made a comment on another line that we all share together about changing the mindset. The brother that is I'm not going to say over EYL, but the brother that's what the major component. There's two young brothers, but the one brother, Rashad, what does he have in common? He's a product of the Nation of Islam. He's a product of Imam Warren's Deen community. And if you look at both of those communities, they have been successful with securing deals, securing regions in these countries, and doing business for a long time. But because we are majority Christian Blacks in America, we don't open ourselves up to other ideas, and that's a failure on leadership.
It is a failure on leadership, and it's a fear that has been injected into the spirit and the mind of Black folks in America. It's on one side, you know that you're being oppressed, you know that you're not being given every opportunity, and now that's going to even increase over these next few years. Yet you must look to the success of the ancestors. I keep telling folks, look, y'all, our ancestors ain't failed nothing. I mean, because what they went through and what they dealt with, I mean, how we going to dare say today that these children, some of these children that's around here now, that have nowhere near, that we spoiled, basically, because we didn't know. We didn't even know how to spoil some child, but we did. And so now that we know how to spoil them, hopefully some of our children will listen to us and say, let me tell you something about raising this child. Let me tell you something about what you may want to consider doing and that what you may want to not consider doing, so that you don't make the same mistake, right? And hopefully we, with that ability to move to those 3 generations forward, you know, that we'll be able to lay the foundation that those great-grandchildren will just be off the chain, that they'll have no fear or nothing, that they'll be thinking that they can go and conquer. Now, I'm going to tell you, now what that'll create in many cases will be some issues for them, because unfortunately, the majority are still going to be fighting. They're still going to be fighting. That's the beautiful thing about what's going on. And I've already, since you dropped that, I've already in my mind, I just wrote down a potential business plan that I'm going to share with my Bahamian brother, and because I think it's a great idea. It's very similar to what you put on the screen there, Denmark. And I'm going to give him a shout and see if, in fact, his business model, could work. Because there are several other business models, man, that in these new residential communities and areas, I believe that a lot of these models like this one, hydroponics and all of that, oh yeah, that's good stuff. And you could really make it happen if, in fact, you could just get agreement with the people that this is what we're going to do. What I found, like right here in America, brothers, that keep us from being successful is the fact that we don't hold true to the vision. What do I mean? If every state or whatever is not necessarily checked off in the business model, you have somebody that will come up with the idea, well, I gave my money and I thought, we got to get beyond that. You got to know in business you're taking a risk. It ain't no guarantees, right? But I can look at the picture of these young brothers, these young brothers right here. I mean, there's no doubt they'll have success and they'll be able to hopefully teach another group and then teach another group. Each one teach one will be a beautiful thing. Now, Denmark, if you want to expand upon that group at all, and we're gonna, I see we haven't gotten back yet, but that particular model there, I'm telling you, here in America, I'm gonna give you an idea. Right now in America, they're trying to figure out that exact model for veterans. They're trying to figure out, can they create small cities for veterans? Because so many of them have PTSD, so many of them, broke, don't have families, that have ran the families away from them. I mean, it's a shame to say I was never in the military, but right now, one of the greatest needed group in America is ex-military, and a lot of them have to be Black. And of course, we know some folks that help people try to get their pays and all of that. But at the end of the day, I think a brother would rather have really peace of mind, true peace of mind, than be paid a little bit of money by the U.S. government or by the Army. Now, maybe you have a different opinion of that, but going forward, the thing that I want to encourage our brothers and sisters is, look,
Did we lose Dr. Rogers again? Go ahead, William Dale.
Yeah, I think that we ought to, as always, as Dr. Rogers was just about to go into, that we ought to think about what's going to be beneficial for us as a race of people and getting into, understanding the military, understanding different areas of life. One of the things that and I think this is what Dr. Rogers was going to go into, is that once you have served in the military, you have certain rights and you have certain benefits that you have to sometimes demand and request. And it is imperative that all of us as Americans, that we have rights, we have things that we ought to demand from each other and not just from the government. So I think that we ought to always keep each other and demand these things from each other. We see Dr. Rogers is back with us.
The enemy is busy today, brothers.
Yeah.
The enemy is busy today, for real. Because, my system just shut down twice. But anyway, let's stay focused and handle our business. As I was indicating, this is a classic question, brothers. And I'm gonna ask this: if any of you if you got an answer, you probably could become a billionaire. How do we eradicate the mistrust and distrust that has been a poison and a curse to our people? You know, we talk about going back to Africa. We talk about going to a Caribbean island. We talk about going wherever we may go. How do we uh, eradicate and get rid of the junk that's between our ears? How do we do that?
One of the first things that I would say is that there needs to be a level of forgiveness of self and forgiveness of others. Um, there have been times, and I'm ashamed to admit it, that I have gone into white establishments and have not demanded the same level of respect that I should have from my black business owners. And I have to make a conscious effort to say, if I go into a black restaurant and the service is not as good, or if the product is not as good, then I should go and give them another opportunity. I've gone into restaurants and the food was subpar, but I've gone back because I said, oh, they must have had a bad night. I think when we get to thinking about business, and you mentioned this earlier, Dr. Rogers, we have to forgive each other. We have to say, okay, let's be supportive of each other. Let's look at what's going look as we would say out in the street. Let's play the long game. Let's see what we're gonna do, and then let's forgive each other. Let's forgive ourselves. We are our greatest enemy because we have never, or it's hard to forgive ourselves. We'll say, "Oh, we made this mistake," or "We done this," and we'll never recover. Well, each and every day that you wake up, that you're able to move around is another day, another opportunity to get it right and to do better. So we have to, again, acknowledge ourselves, forgive ourselves, and then forgive others, especially others that look like us, that are the same hue as us, and who have the same mindset as we do.
Yeah, I think the first thing, as he said, is reconciliation. Um, but we have to put into our minds. It has to be driven, just like every other thing has been programmed into us. We have to program trust into ourselves. So that way, when the first time that somebody does something that cause you to distrust, it doesn't automatically cause you to distrust the entire community. I think we have to do some. We look at, because we've been brainwashed so much. We look at sometimes brainwashing as a bad thing. Sometimes it could be a good thing if you're doing the brainwashing yourself and your community. You have to brainwash yourself to trust each other, to believe in each other, to know that we are good enough, to know that we deserve our own table. We don't have to come to eat at nobody else's table. We deserve our own table. We can handle our own table. We can govern ourselves. We can, all of those things that was enforced in us on slavery and Jim Crow, we have to begin to deprogram those things. And it's supposed to be done in the home, and it's supposed to be done in your places of worship. You got to have a brainwashing document that say, I don't care if you have to get up in church or get up in the morning at home and look in the mirror and say, I would love black people. I would trust black people. I would support black people. I would go to black restaurants. I would not get mad every time somebody else has an attitude. I would begin to communicate with them to let them know why I feel like I feel, but say it in the proper way. We have to have those type of things in order to get rid of some of this damage that has been done to us. They brainwash us every day, and we sit by and entertain the devil right in front of our homes with our TV. without the media. They social media, they programming us every day. And then as soon as we start talking about loving each other, and somebody got something to say.
Well, let me tell you something, brother. Let me add a piece to that. Actually, the book says study it both day and night and observe to do everything written therein, and you will have success and prosperity. That's a brainwashing process. That's a programming process. That's a processing process. And it's necessary because out of sight, out of mind. Just had a situation just today. Hadn't seen a brother in actually since college. Was my freshman roommate in college. The circumstances happened that his name came across my mind, and I dialed him up, and phone was disconnected. So I knew another brother that was my roommate, dialed him up and got him, and then we had a conversation. And in the course of the conversation, discovered that he lived in the same area as one of the brothers in another one of our groups from. I mean, and so my point is that if we open up our hearts and open up our minds, and if we're willing to respond, because sometimes when you get those same inclinations, when it say, Dr. Taylor, call so and so, don't say call like that, but you get an inkling that you need to check on that brother. And then when you do it, boom, a lot of times it's a blessing. Or you may bless him, or he may bless you, or it may be bilateral. So we have to put on ourselves a program that will accomplish. Study to show thyself approved, a workman needed not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. So whatever you look at, Paul Myers, Success Motivation Institute, built back in 1975, 76. You know, W. Clement Stones. I mean, Napoleon Hill, I mean, all of these people, their whole thing, all of them was white folks. But remember, you had Reverend Ike. You had some brothers that were telling you was the greatest thing that God ever created. You got to believe it. See, people sometimes don't understand. You will be programmed one way or the other. You're going to be programmed to defeat, or you're going to be programmed for victory. I just want you guys to give me one last thing. This is it. 1 minute on why or what are you going to do after this conversation, after that just emerged? What are you going to do to establish your own personal self-programming process? What are you going to do from that injection? And that's how it works. From that first thought from Denmark on self-programming, what are you going to do from today?
Um, I'm going to continue to support my Black businesses, but I'm going to take it even a step further. I don't normally go and give suggestions on social media. I'm going to start going on social media and suggesting different restaurants or different products or different people to deal with. I think that that's the next level that I need to take this supporting. I can talk about other stuff, then I could talk about this. If I go to a good restaurant, if I have a good product that's being produced by Black people, I ought to share it with as many Black people as I know, or just people, and say, hey, this is somebody you can trust. This is a product that's good, that's beneficial. So for me, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be better at advertising those Black businesses.
I think for me, I started this process a while ago, but I need to amp it up even more. I need to amp it up. And my thing has been knowing that I am good enough, knowing that I am what God created me to be, no matter if I'm still in the process or I have completed the process. I am enough. My family is enough. My community is enough. I'm going to continue to read Black philosophers, Black thinkers, continue to connect with Black people, no matter what the religion, or no matter what the creed, whatever, continue to try to connect and make connections and know that. And again, one of the things I must put on my head, self-preservation is not hate. Self-love is not hate. And I think oftentimes in our community, people have started to think like if you're talking about being proud to be Black or supporting Black or doing this, it's you hating other people. No, they ain't got nothing to do. You love yourself so much and your community so much, you don't have time to think about nobody else. That's where I'm at right now.
And you know what, brothers? Prior to getting on today, that's what happened. I said to some brothers, I said, look, man, we now at our age with this technology, there's no reason we can't get on a Zoom call and have some conversations and get caught up and find out where everybody is. That's the first step. And to see what kind of commonalities we may have to move such agenda as we're discussing ahead. The second piece is not to think, feel, or believe that I have become too old to entertain or to give consideration to move to another country, uh, another city, or whatever. You're not too old. And the last thing would be to make sure that I encourage older brothers to know and understand they have a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom, and they got to come out of those mental bars and those mental chains and open up their minds and let their thoughts freely flow because many of them have great ideas, they have great input, and then most of all, coming back from where I came out of, a lot of them have skills that they can teach to young brothers if the young brothers and them can get rid of this theoretical alleged generational gap. That's my hope. That's my prayer. And brothers, based on what you just hit us with, I'm excited because we're on a path. We want to let people know and understand that look, we should not be down in the dumps. To go back to our original thoughts when we came on, we should not be down in the dumps. We should be thinking, how do I now leverage this? If we're someone that now you got a new job, now you retired, now you came out of your thought process should be, how can I convey? How can I bridge my skill set? How can I do that to take care of myself and my family today, tomorrow, and for my next 50 years on this planet? What do you think, brothers and sisters? This is just Black Men Declare. We are here just to share a perspective that we fight. We're not getting out of the ring. We're going to continue to do what we need to do. We've been programmed and bamboozled far too long. It's time for us to get in the ring. It's time for us to go a few rounds. And if that means we've got to be uncomfortable for a minute, we got to remember our ancestors. They were uncomfortable for a long minute. Till next time, this is J. Rogers, Mike Side, saying peace and love.